Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Fortitude Fix. I hope you're well. My name is Deshauna, and in today's video, I wanted to stop by, give you all a little bit of a grief update, and just talk to you a little bit about how I'm doing since I lost my mom. So my hope is that by sharing this video, I am able to kind of just document the process and really get things that are inside of me out. And I hope that in doing that, it is freeing for me, but that it is also helpful for you. Grief really is love with nowhere to go. It's an experience that is not linear. It does not look the same on everyone. And whatever stage of grief that you are in, just know that you are not alone, and we move through those stages at different timelines. And yeah, I just wanted to talk to you all about kind of what's been going on. So you may notice I am in a different location. I am in a hotel here in the San Francisco Bay Area. And I am in office this week. Typically I work from home, but I, decided to make it a little staycation with my husband as well. So he's at work. I'm gonna go pick him up from the BART station in a little bit. But I wanted to film this video now because I'm alone, it's quiet, there are no kids, and I really just have some time to reflect. So for those of you who don't know, I lost my mom in December of 2021. She, although did not give birth to me, she is my mother, and she is the one who raised me, taught me everything I know, and loved on me unconditionally my entire life. And when I say my entire life, I mean it. When I was born, she was in the room and the doctors handed me to her rather than my biological mom who gave birth to me at that time. I really wanted and I envisioned a life in a future to where she would be in the room when I gave birth, and that did not happen. And I think that's something that still bothers me to this day. My oldest daughter was born in the heat of the pandemic, and everything was kind of like shut down and closed, and people were figuring things out but not quite. And there's only one person that was allowed to be in the room, and that was my husband. I couldn't even have visitors. With my second daughter, my mom had already passed away. She passed away when I was pregnant with my second daughter. So she has never met her, but she knew about her before she passed away. She knew I was pregnant. I told her, and she knew I was having a girl. And to be honest, she knew I was pregnant with my second before I told her. So like before I told anybody, she knew I was pregnant, which blows my mind to this day. I recently found a new therapist. Well, it's been a few months now. I think I shared with you all that my previous therapist that I really liked actually left the field and I had to find another therapist. So I did. I meet with them on a weekly basis. I am absolutely in love with them in terms of how helpful they are. They have a similar story to mine, which is really interesting. They are from the area, so they know kind of some of the things that I talk about in therapy in terms of like geographic location and actual like physical buildings that I referenced. They knew exactly what I meant, and it just really has been working out great. This is the first time that I think I've sought therapy in terms of like for my grief. I think previously I was in therapy because I had feelings of overwhelm and overstimulation, and I just needed like some help kind of monitoring and kind of regulating my emotions. But like this therapist that I have currently is really urging me and helping me through my grief process, which I actually haven't ever had. I want to share that grief also does not have a timeline. Please don't feel badly if you are experiencing things or feeling things, even if it's been years or months. Like, that's totally fine. Yes, my mom passed away December 1st, 2021, but I was also very pregnant. I had to focus on trying to be as healthy as possible for myself so that I didn't break down because I'm pregnant, and I was worried about kind of the impact that that had on my pregnancy, my delivery, and my baby. Right after my mom passed away, maybe a few months later, we actually moved, and we moved into our first home, which was great, but that comes with a lot of, you know, things and plans and movement, and, you know, things to do and accomplish. And then I had my baby girl, and we were in kind of like this nesting at home postpartum phase. So I feel like I really haven't had the opportunity to deal with my grief until 2023. And in 2023, I went through, I want to say 3 or 4 therapists. And then I found the therapist that I have now, whom I love and adore, in 2024. And so I'm just now being able to like start the work, if that makes sense. One of the assignments that I was given was to write a letter to my birth mom. So I did, and today I want to read that to you. I felt that it was okay for me to write this letter. I think I have you know, gone through the stages of grief. My biological mother died when I was 2. I kind of grew up knowing kind of the situation, and I went through the stages of grief as I grew up and as my intelligence kind of grew, and as I learned about, you know, some of the battles that she fought in her lifetime. And I think going through the stages of grief and also having it follow the trajectory of your growth and development is really interesting, because the more you kind of grow and experience, the more that you understand, right? Your lens just gets wider and wider and wider. Yeah, that's kind of what happened. So the first step was for me to write a letter to my birth mom. The second step is for me to write a letter to my mom, who died in 2021. And I'm not sure that, I know I can do it, but I haven't started it. I hope to have it to my therapist next week. I'm gonna go ahead and read you the letter that I wrote to my birth mom, and I hope that it helps me heal in a way that proves to myself that I can write this letter to my mom and that it'll be okay. I also hope that me writing this letter, something that I say or something about my experience, resonates with you. And I also want to ask for your advice. I have to write this letter to my mom, the only person who has known me for my entire life in such a close way. Yes, I have a grandmother, and yes, I have my dad, but the relationship with them is very different than the relationship with my mom. I am struggling because I know when I write this letter, I can't, it's gonna be extremely emotional, and I can't hug her and I can't see her, and it's gonna bring up a lot of things for me. I'm already getting kind of emotional thinking about it, and I think in my brain I want to make sure it's perfect, and I want to make sure I have, you know, a great opening line, and I want to make sure that my letter to her is in order, and that I, you know, say the right things and I say them well, and I am purposeful. And one thing that my therapist said was like, it doesn't have to be a formal letter. Like, you could do bullet points, you could jot down notes, you could pretend you're having a conversation with her. What does that look like? What does that sound like? What are you telling her? That makes me sad to think of it in that way, but it also kind of helps me get out of my brain for wanting to do things within a certain limitation, and it allows me, it pushes me to be a little bit more free. I think that's what I need in order to accomplish this task. Let me know if you have any advice, if you've done this exercise before, but this is gonna hit so hard. Like, when I tell you this woman raised me, she did everything for me. She taught me everything. She gave me everything. She knew me better than I knew myself. She knew when I was pregnant before I even said anything. She reads me like a book, and I feel like I don't have that. There's an untethered feeling that I have, with this particular loss. But without further ado, I want to read you this letter before this video gets way too long. This is the letter that I wrote to my birth mom. I have it on my phone, so that's what I'm looking at. Okay. Dear Mom, the older I get, the more I find myself wondering about you as a whole person and your story. I think about questions like, what was your childhood like? How did you feel about the way that you grew up? What was your favorite subject in school? What did you want to be as an adult? Generally, I want to broaden the lens a bit and learn more as I think about what may have led to the decisions you made. I wasn't shown your death certificate until I was in my 20s, and I recently received a copy to have for myself all these years later. Your death certificate just made me have more questions, some of which I may never have answers to. I've seen you in pictures that were shown to me. I think I've only seen 3 photos of you. I truly dislike the fact that we don't have any photos together. The only one I've seen of the 2 of us is me in the photo in a stroller and you from the waist down standing in the background wearing a skirt, socks, and sneakers. I'm glad that my mommy always made sure I knew about you. It wasn't like my family waited to tell me that she wasn't my bio mom for years. I felt like I grew up knowing about you. I went through the normal stages of grief throughout my lifetime. I remember being young and sad, wondering what life would be like if you were still here. Around middle and high school, I remember feeling angry that you weren't here because of the decisions that you made. My dad wasn't an active parent in my life, and I just felt like if you did something different or cared more or loved us or loved me more, you'd have stayed. I was angry that you chose drugs over us, over me. I moved beyond anger and grew to understand the type of illness that addiction actually is, and it isn't always so easy just to stop. I fully recognize in adulthood and in parenthood that multiple conflicting things can be true all at once. You could love us, you could love me, but still struggle badly with addiction that ultimately cost you your life. I have forgiven you, and also I'm still very curious about your lived experience. Part of me wants to know what my life was like when I lived with you for those first 18 months. But part of me also thinks it would absolutely break my heart to know the details, especially now that I have kids of my own and my youngest is just a few months older than I was when you passed. I can't imagine what it was like. I can see the apartment. I've heard the horror stories of that place, and I've even watched the video of it being demolished. Some things I can't know, and I guess it's better that way. I just wonder how those things affect me now as a person, as a wife, as a mom, etc. Overall, I've done pretty well in life. I've accomplished many things that I'm proud of. My life hasn't always been easy, but I'm glad that I've made it this far. I've carried you in my heart all my life, and I just hope that you are proud of me. Love, Deshana. I think the part that hits the hardest is that I can't have those conversations. I'm so curious and I want to know more about her and her story, and I want to hear from her, and I feel terribly about the battles that she must have gone through in her life. I hate that she wasn't there for me and my brother. I hate that addiction affected her life in the way that it did. I did that and I read it to my therapist and I was fine. Actually, I didn't read it. There we go. I'm processing in real time. You're processing with me. I wondered, ever since I was reading this letter to you all and out loud right now, I wondered why I started crying, and I felt something was going on, and I was like, well, I didn't cry last time when I shared it with my therapist, but I didn't read it to her, to my therapist. I sent it to my therapist in an email and my therapist read it. This is the first time that I've read this out loud. And I think that's where the tears are coming from, in how real the words are and the feelings are. I don't know if I'm ready to do this for my mom. I think I might have to make it less formal. I think I might have to make it bullet points. Because writing a story and reading it and using words in the past tense to refer to her is hard. I am going to end this video here. I hope that hearing my story, my journey, my experience helps you in some way realize that you are not alone, that grief is hard, it looks different on everybody, and it is truly without a timeline. I've had a full day of work. I have a full day of work tomorrow, but today I am going to enjoy some time with myself, with my husband, and loving the life that I get to live every day. Let me know in the comments below if you made it this far. Go ahead and post a little like notebook emoji for writing letters, and let me know if you have any advice for writing this letter to who was the single most important person in my life for the longest time in my life, who is no longer here. Let me know if you have any thoughts or advice for me. I'll see you all in the comments. Thank you all so much for watching. I will see you all in my next video. I'm gonna go ahead and get myself together. Go ahead and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I will see you in my very next video. As always, remember to fill your